Axel 4, right? Axel 4. Oh man, it's your boy Icon with a Netflix movie review for you, going over Beverly Hills Cop. And when I was reading the description on Netflix for Beverly Hills Cop, it said 40 years later, and I said, "Holy shit!" For the first Beverly Hills Cop was 40 years ago. God damn. Oh man, and it's sad because I was actually around for that. So here we go, 40 years later, and kudos to like the cast because the fact that like Talbot is still around and like Billy's still around, one, it does my heart good to see that because when they do remakes of like older movies and they bring back like the older cast members, sometimes like sometimes they don't want to do it, or a lot of them are deceased or whatever, they have like medical issues. It was actually nice to see like for the most part everybody come back, or the fact that they're still alive to even come back, so that was cool. But like I said, we're here to talk about a little Axel Foley, and like I said before we get started, hit the notification bell, like and or subscribe to my YouTube channel, and let's get started. So the movie takes place in good old Detroit, Michigan, Michigan, and classic Axel Foley adventure. He ends up, well, he said he got like banned from the police force. He got banned from doing a specific case or something. So in true Axel form, he's tracking this certain group of people. And because he wasn't allowed to track those people, he ended up getting one of his buddies on the force to like, he tricked one of his buddies on the force to basically do it for him, because Axel knew that this group of people was going to be at the local basketball game, the local hockey game. And, he invited like one of his white cop friends. He's like, hey, come to a hockey game with me. But he knew that there'd be bad guys there. So this whole big thing happened. He told his friend, he was like, yeah, I just brought you here because I wanted to stop bad guys because I'm not allowed to do it. Like this whole big shit show ensued. And then there's like a chase scene. There was a moment where like they got into a car and they were like going through the city and stuff was blowing up and people were getting shot at and everything. And then once they did that, they started playing The Heat Is On, and I almost teared up. I was teared up because if you watch the original like classic, the 80s nostalgia music, especially the Beverly Hills Cop 80s nostalgia music, was on point. So the heat was on, and then they ended up stopping the bad guys. His partner got all the credit for it, and then Foley still got yelled at by the chief. and then come to find out, because the entire thing was a shit show because they did a lot of property damage trying to stop those guys. The mayor basically cursed out the chief of police, and then the chief of police, he basically took the bullet for Foley, like to save Foley's ass for him not getting in trouble. He basically like, put his own career on the line to the point where he's basically being forced to retire. Because they're just like, listen, with all those property damage, somebody got to take the blame for it. So he said, fine, I'll take the blame for it, leave Axel alone, and I'll just bow out gracefully. So Axel feels bad about it, tries to talk him out of it, but it doesn't work. Now, in Beverly Hills, he has a daughter. And I don't remember him having a daughter in any of the 3 previous films, but he has a daughter. His daughter lives in Beverly Hills, which I thought was weird. And she's an attorney. Like, she's a criminal defense attorney. So there's a Spanish guy who is on trial for killing a cop. Jane Foley, which is his daughter's name, she ends up being like the lawyer to defend the criminal. So she goes in, she talks to him. He's just like, hey, listen, I didn't do it. I didn't kill a cop. He said, I was just driving the getaway car. The cop was in the right seat. We crashed. And then when I woke up, the gun was in my lap and everybody arrested me and said that I did it. So she's just like, oh, you're innocent. And she said, I'm going to save you. So she goes into her car so she can put her case files together and everything. And then a group of guys in hoods, they run up on her car. They tie a rope to her car and push her car off of a roof. And then they dangle her off of a building and say, stop looking into this case. Don't take this case. Now, this isn't the first time this will happen to this poor girl. Like throughout the course of this entire movie, like she got ran up on. like half the film was just people, just random guys in hoodies just running up on this poor girl. So then after she gets run up on, that's when we get, one of the first nostalgia, characters, which is good old Billy. Billy shows up because apparently Billy left the police force because him and Talbot got into some shit. Billy leaves the police force. He ends up becoming a private investigator. And while he was doing his investigations, he found out some shady business was going on. And he asked Jane Foley to represent the Spanish guy because he knew the Spanish guy was innocent and he knew this was part of like a bigger, larger scheme. But then because she got ran up on and her car almost got thrown off a building, he felt bad because he asked her to be a part of this. And then he called good old Axel out in Detroit. So Axel picks up the phone. He's just like, yo, Axel, I got your daughter into some shit. He said she's in danger. So he's like, I'm about to fly out there right now. So he goes out to Beverly Hills. Billy gets captured by the enemy because he was doing a stakeout. He gets run up on by the enemy. When Axel gets to Beverly Hills, he immediately goes to Billy's office to investigate, what Billy was looking into, which got him run up on, which got his daughter run up on. And then there was some bad guys that was in Billy's office tearing up his office. And then when they were tearing up his office, Axel went in there. He got into it with them. Another chase scene starts. He gets in this really tiny, non-speedy, this, it was one of the worst little putt-putt vehicles of all time. And the thing about that kind of got me, the bad guys were running after Axel. They were chasing after Axel because he was just we got to get this guy because apparently he knows something. Axel gets in this car that goes 2 miles an hour. And the way they shot it looked fine, but in the back of your mind, you're just there's no way in hell these guys couldn't catch him. He was just doing some of the slowest, unaccelerated shit of all, and they just couldn't catch him. I'm just that's. I mean, I was enjoying it, but in the back of my mind, I was nah, there's no way y'all could not have caught him. So then he ends up running into two very attractive police officers who try to run up on him. They're just oh, put your hands up, and he's I'm a cop. And then because once the female cop showed up, then the bad guys couldn't catch him anymore. So then the female cops they took Axel, they yoked up Axel, and then they took him down to the police station. So while he's in the police station, this is where the new members of the the movie show up. There was this white cop, I forgot his name. This white cop shows up. He's talking to Axel. And then when he's talking to Axel, he's just listen, I don't know how you used to do things back in 1987, but we do things a little differently here. And he was just you just can't go around vandalizing property. Axel's let me speak to Talbot. Let me speak to Talbot. Talbot shows up, and he's what the fuck, Axel? He's you're back in Beverly Hills, or you're tearing shit up. And so the two of them embrace each other. And then while they embrace each other, he ends up introducing him to somebody, and he goes, oh, by the way, this is, we'll just call him Jake. I forgot the guy's name. He's oh, this is Jake. He's head of our, narcotics task force. And as soon as he introduced us to Jake, I'm well, clearly that's the bad guy. Clearly this is the bad guy. So, he shakes his head, and he's just oh, don't worry, Axel, this is Beverly Hills, blah, blah, blah. They have a conversation. And then Axel's looking at him okay, this guy's clearly the bad guy. So then, he ends up running into his daughter. And when he runs into his daughter didn't want to have anything to do with him because when Foley got locked up, he called his daughter. She hung up on him. He called her about 2 or 3 more times. She kept hanging up on him. So then finally, she actually goes down to the police station because he said, listen, I was talking to Billy, and I came here, 1, because I heard you were in danger, and 2, Billy told me that you and him were working together, and the information I have involves your case. So she reluctantly comes down. She teams up with him, and then her and her dad, they're going to we're going to investigate now because she wants to get her client off because obviously she doesn't want her client, to go to prison for something he didn't do. So she's willing to work with her father, although she doesn't want to do it to help clear his name. So while they're in the car together, this sparks the conversation of, oh, you weren't there for me. You weren't a father. And it was oh, I tried to be a father. You pushed me away. Yeah, but although I pushed you away, you were still supposed to keep fighting. And that went back and forth. We do find out that Axel did get divorced because there was a gang. Basically what happened was there was a gang in Detroit that he was investigating, and the gang in Detroit threatened his family. And because that gang threatened his family, Axel moved his family to Beverly Hills. And I guess because that his wife was oh, you put our family in danger, and she divorced him. And then he tried to have a relationship with his daughter, and then she didn't want to talk to him. So eventually he was well, if you don't want to talk to me, I'm just going to go on about my business. And then she got mad when he stopped trying. So, and then two of them had this whole conversation throughout the entire movie. While they were doing their investigation stuff, they're having a conversation. And then the white guy that he was talking to in the beginning ended up at one point dating his daughter. So he started tailing the two of them because the case that they were looking into was his case, and he didn't trust what they were doing. So he ends up following them, and then when he follows them, this big shootout happens because the thing is, the bad guys were looking for an SD card that had the footage of them killing the cop and framing the Spanish kid. And Billy had that SD card. So that's why they were tearing up his office, because they were looking for the SD card. And then they thought Axel had it, so they were following him and following his daughter. And then, when they realized that maybe they got it in the car, they tried to run up on the two of them. And then the other cop showed up. He helped, the white cop showed up. He helped them get out of the firefight. And then after that, Talbot brought them back to the police force. And then when Talbot brought them back to the police force, he was like, Axel, take your ass to Beverly Hills. And he told the white cop, he was like, you're suspended, for doing dumb shit. So then, So then now the three of them decided to link up together. They're just like, oh, so now Foley's like, I'm going to team up with my daughter and her ex-lover, so this is awkward, and we're going to try to clear this person's name. And then I also forgot, like, the scene where Foley was in, like, the little putt-putt mobile, and he was going through the city, like, wreaking havoc. They were playing the Neutron dance. And I was just like, yep, here comes that nostalgia. Even the, like, once that hits, like, it sends the chills up your spine. So anyway, so now, like I said, so they're all together now. They get to a point where they're able to prove, they find the information, they find out that, there was an SD card. They end up finding out that the car, instead of the Spanish guy killing the cop, they found out that the car actually did get hit by an SUV. So they had to find the SUV. When they found out where they thought the SUV might be, it was in a mansion somewhere. They needed to get into the mansion so they can confirm this information. And then that's what brought Serge back. Serge came in because he knew somebody that was trying to sell the house, and then Serge put Foley, like in touch with the person. And Serge was cool. Like I miss Balky, for all you Perfect Strangers fans, like I miss Balky. So Serge was there. So like I said, the nostalgia is real in this one. Serge was there, like said they found the evidence that they needed, and then when they found out that they found the SUV that had the paint from the cop car on it that crashed. So that's when Jane was just like, oh, this is all the evidence that I need. I can take this to clear the name of the Spanish kid. And then that's when Foley was just like, yeah, but we still need to investigate these guys because there's some dirty cops here that are doing things that they don't have no business doing. And then the daughter got mad and she was like, oh, I'm just here to clear this guy's name. I'm not trying to get into a firefight. And you didn't care about clearing the guy's name. You just wanted to catch the bad guys because you just want to be a big hero and like Beverly Hills, like, and then she gets mad, she walks away. But because the white cop got suspended, he's like, fuck that, I'm gonna help you solve this case. So I can get back on the team. So the two of them go into it, they try to like solve the case, and once they investigate, they try to solve the case, the original white guy who we're calling Jake, he runs up on them with like half the police force. He had planted drugs in their car, and he was like, oh, these guys are criminal possession, like they're bad cops. Meanwhile, he's the bad cop, and he's the one that has all these cops on the payroll. Takes him down to the precinct, locks him up. Those same two female cops from earlier called Talbot. They were just like, yo, your boy Foley's in jail. And then, because even then, Billy knew that Jake was a rogue cop, and he knew that he was a crooked cop, and he knew that he was doing bad things. Billy tried to tell that to Talbot, and then Talbot was like, nah, Billy, you're wrong. So then Billy got mad. The two of them had a falling out, and that's when he quit the force. And then he became a private eye. So then when Talbot found out that Jake was the one that actually arrested Foley, that's when he was like, shit, Billy might be right. He puts him in the handcuffs. Jake and Foley have a conversation. He's just like, yo, bring me the SD card or else, something's going to happen to your family. Foley ends up breaking out of prison. He ends up breaking the white dude out of prison. They steal a helicopter and almost crash it. I don't know how they almost crashed a helicopter. And then they escape. They find out where Billy is because Billy got captured by the bad guys. They find out where Billy is. They break Billy out. And now the three of them are on their way back to the mansion because Jake had kidnapped Jane. And then he's just like, Foley, if you don't bring the SD card, I'm going to kill your daughter. They take a truck. They basically take like a truck that had drugs in it. They crash the truck into the mansion, and then this big gunfight happens. Talbot shows up. Him and Billy reunite together, and then while we're reunited here, Foley goes and rescues his daughter. There was a moment where Jake almost shot his daughter. Foley jumped in the way. He took a bullet to the shoulder, and then after that, like the white cop, he killed Jake, and then they arrested everybody who was still alive. Everyone's name was cleared. The Spanish kid's name was cleared. All was right with the world. And then in the end, Foley ended up, reconciling with his daughter because, once your daddy gets shot, it's like you can't be mad at him anymore. The two of them reconciled, and then, all was right with the world. We never actually found out what happened to the white guy because there was a moment where they did like the flirting thing between him and the daughter throughout the course of the entire movie. But then after he shot Jake, we actually just never saw him again. Like, we don't know what happened to him. We don't know what the situation was. And then we find out like a few days later, they recreated the scene where Billy was in the car across the street from the hospital because they were checking on Foley. And then Foley shows up. He sits in the back seat, a la the original Beverly Hills Cop. And then the three of them agree to go get a steak together. And then that's how the movie ended. And thank you for tuning in. So, this was cool. It was cut and dry. Like, there was nothing wild and crazy. Like, there was no, like... You can basically guess the plot throughout the entire film, because the moment you see the guy once you see Jake in the office, you're just like, yeah, this is obviously the bad guy. So, and then when they're just like, oh, there's some crooked cops, we're just like, yeah, I wonder who these crooked cops are. So that's it. But it was still fun because it was, like I said, it was a basic action film. It had a lot of fun spots in it. Eddie Murphy didn't do anything over the top that he shouldn't have been doing. Like, he didn't do anything crazy. You know, this isn't like Die Hard or whatever. You can actually believe that he did, you know, like the majority of the stuff that he did. And like I said, it was nice to hear like the old school music. It was nice to hear the Axel Foley theme. It was nice to see the old, you know, like the original characters come back and do stuff, to see where everybody is, you know, to see like what everybody's been up to, find out what's going on in everybody's family. So I enjoyed it. So yeah, so for this one, we're gonna give this one a definite yay. Like, go on Netflix and watch, you know, Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. Let me know what you thought. Share your questions, comments, and or concerns down below, and we will continue to talk about it. Check out my other reviews, because I got Suicide Squad Isekai up on my channel. We also got My Adventures of Superman, and we're rolling on to the New York Swim Week fashion show, where we will review that too, and I hope you guys enjoy it, because I'm looking forward to it as well. So that was it, guys. So thanks for tuning in as always. Another great adventure in Beverly Hills. We're signing off. Until next time, we're out this.